I also think we loved one another. We never said anything, not while I was your pupil anyway. But do you remember that time in France? I invited you to come see me when you told me you would be visiting friends in Lille over the summer holidays. I am Edwige Dro. I come from Côte d'Ivoire. I do a lot of things, but for the purpose of this, I am a writer, a literary translator, and a literary activist. The best thing, I think, can I even think of a best thing about being a writer? Perhaps that, nobody knows you, so you are kind of there. And nobody has any expectations of you, which is the best thing, but also the worst thing, because as soon as they know that you're a writer, they expect you to be talking about society, to be engaged as a writer, l'écrivain doit être engagé. So yeah, I think that's the worst thing about being a writer. And you're supposed to solve all these problems around writing. So why do people not read? Accessibility to books. You are supposed to be the bookseller, the literary marketing agent, everything. Period, it is aloko, yes. Fried plantain. I think this is the best thing. Whoever tells you otherwise is lying. Aloko is the best thing. I'm a literary person through and through, actually. In Côte d'Ivoire, after the BEPC, which is a GCSE, so before you go to high school, you are supposed to choose your track, a literary track or a science track. And I was actually excellent in both tracks, and I wanted to go and do a science track because I do not like to do what is expected of me. And my father, like God rest his wonderful soul, told me, no, just follow your natural aptitude, go and do literature. So I did literature. Then after my baccalaureate, I went to England. Where I was going to study law. I actually studied law for like a year, then I went to study literature. But I think and it was great being in England, I had access to as many books, literature as I wanted. So I read a lot. I spent my days at the libraries. So I read a lot, and I think that influenced my writing. And I returned back home. But I think what also influenced my writing was the stories that my grandparents were telling me. So that oral nature of the stories, and that's what I try to bring in my writing. The pleasure can be for the writing, choosing the right notepad. I write by hand, so I need to choose the right notepad and the right pen. At the moment, I'm just using a normal big pen, so nothing extraordinary, but I need the right tools. And the best part is also thinking about how I can talk about social issues in an imaginative way, in a way that is not predictable, in a way that keeps it writerly. So that's the best thing about writing. The worst thing is, did you ask the worst thing? The most painful thing, right? It's how to make those social issues not the main point of the writing, because for me the story must dominate. So, and then finding the right place to write. But now I have no excuse because I have a library now, so I go to my library and write there. As I sit here as an Ivorian writer, I want to say that a writer does not have a public duty because we get asked this all the time back home, but a writer has a public duty. I think a writer needs to stand for its society. She needs to bring out those issues And she needs to contextualize also those issues. Where do those issues come from? In the case of my country, you know, we have a huge social inequality in my country, for instance, and people say, well, you know, if God wants, if God gives us the luck. So we need to understand, where do these sayings come from? So yeah, a writer has a public duty. You know, I am here on the generosity of the US State Department, actually. It is, I did see my DS 2019 form. So they spent about like more than 17,000 to send me here. The state has to, you know, it has to support and encourage its writers. Otherwise, it does not have any say in what I do. And at the moment, they want to have a say in what we do as writers without investing. So investment could be having a website. We live in a digital age, a website where you can find resources that are there, resources pertaining to, you know, copyright issues, for instance. We need to have well-equipped libraries, for instance. We need to have residencies, for instance, good distribution network, for instance. And I think the state needs to do that. And yeah, so the state needs to invest money, needs to invest structure. Sometimes writers are the parents pauvres of arts. So you have the Minister of Culture, but what they do is to look after the singers. And every once in a while they tell you, well, you did not come to see the minister. Well, why should I go and see the minister? Your job is to know what is happening and then come, you know, where the writers are and, you know, propose solution. My job is not to traipse to offices of ministers and sit there. I have actually two writers and a piece of writing. The first piece of writing is Allah n'est pas obligé, Allah is not obliged, by Amadou Kourouma. I love the way it deconstructed the French language. Amadou Kourouma is from the north of Côte d'Ivoire, or rather was, he's now dead. And he said, you know, I write in Malinké. Malinké is a language spoken in the north of Côte d'Ivoire. So he hears the words in Malinké and then he, you know, translates them on the page. So the French is not your normal French that is spoken by l'Académie Française or whatever. And this is a book that actually, if you ask many people in Côte d'Ivoire and in other parts of Africa, they will, you know, speak about that book. So I think we need to be writing languages that actually the people can understand. And also that goes back to being a public duty writer. And the other writer is Hemle Boom. She's from Cameroon. And I read a book by her. She's written quite a few novels, but the one that really grabbed me was Les Maquisards. It hasn't been translated into English yet. It needs to be translated into English. It is actually not widely available. It is here at Iowa Library. These are some of the things making me cry. But it is not widely available. But it is, I think, is the best way of writing about, writes about the assassination of Ruben Umniobe, the independence leader in Cameroon. But I think this is the best way of writing history and all those issues around feminism without making it so obvious. You know, the story must be king. So yeah, or queen. Okay, so being here, I've actually written for the first time in a very long time a short story in French. I don't tend to write in French often, despite being from a French-speaking country. So that is on my desktop, and I am really pushing to the end of my novel. So that is on my desktop. So once I write those last few words, I should be okay. What surprised me about Iowa? I I don't know. This is my second time in the US. I came previously on a program 2 years ago, but it was different. It wasn't a writerly program. It was actually the Young African Leaders Initiative program. And so it was a cohort. And I think I am really bad in groups. Especially when you are from the same country and there is that expectation that you should fly the flag for your country. And I'm like, why should I fly the flag from my country? I am being invited here by the State Department. This country has not done anything. I will not be the ambassador of Côte d'Ivoire here. So I hate the expectation that were put on me, and I thought I was going to hate again the US. But being here with other writers has been wonderful to be with other writers. People that are not understood, I don't think, we are not always understood. So it is good being with other people who are also misunderstood. I've enjoyed Iowa in a sense that when you go to restaurants or bookstores and you say that you are a writer on the international writing program, they know who you are in a sense that, and I'm like, this is what a literary city should be. And I almost feel like saying to my government, see, this is what we mean when we tell you get involved in, in literary matters. So yes, I've enjoyed my time here.